Feral by Left to Suffer. This is the Atlanta, Georgia new metalcore quintet's debut studio album, self-released on the 12th of May. Feral consists of 8 tracks, clocks in at around 25 minutes, and is the much anticipated follow-up to 2022's And Dying Forever LP or EP. It was an EP.
It was an EP. It was an EP. It was an EP because this is the debut LP.
Yeah.
Also was an EP.
We're picking up right where we left off.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's worth reiterating that this really truly was a much anticipated follow-up for me personally. I think the And Dying Forever EP was phenomenal, and Left to Suffer has just been one of these bands who, from the moment they stepped into like the heavy music scene, they've been a force to be reckoned with. And I think this album really cements that. It's not flawless, but when it works, it is such a masterclass in just like angry breakdowns to vent your anger to. This reminds me so much of like the experience I had early on with a band like Moths to Flames, where they are such a cathartic listening experience.
Yes.
From like a heavy music perspective.
Yep.
Like just in a sense of when, like, in the most teenage angst type way, when I need something that really just like
can really
beats my feelings down in the right way, this is gonna be one of those albums that's really just gonna like slip in there as like a new favorite. I don't want to deal with my feelings. I want to listen to Feral by Left to Suffer, their debut LP.
And I want to die. And those are the sort of lyrics on this album. And sometimes, like, I don't need a fucking metaphor. I just need stuff like Left to Suffer. Like, whatever Left to Suffer are cooking, I want it.
It wears its nastiness on its face in a really satisfying way. I think the tone of this record on like multiple levels is really satisfying. First and foremost, it just kind of like the overall like kind of like deep, nasty tone of the instrumentation. And then like the, as we mentioned earlier, sort of like angry delivery of all of our emotions. They marry very well on this record.
I think we also do a great job of incorporating some newer elements as well. Like there's like a clean chorus here or there. Additionally, on Consistent Suffering, that closing track, like suddenly we've got like a club beat that's been added in there. And what I'll tell you is that I really urge this band to keep risk taking, because I think it's paid off in every instance they've done it, and I tip my hat to that, because it's just impressive. Like, Left to Suffer are, you know, not for nothing, like I still consider them young blood. They're fresh in this scene to me personally, and they keep getting better and better. But it's not just because we keep refining a certain sound. They're doing that to some degree. Don't get me wrong.
I think you're touching on something that I've been thinking about, but haven't quite articulated it, in that they're one of these sort of like, because they're new, they're almost like a product of the last decade of like heavy music.
You're not wrong. So we're
and it less feels like risk for me and more feels like almost a very natural sound of being like the type of band that feels as if it's been influenced by like 10 years of like the ups and downs of like scene metalcore and deathcore and stuff like that.
This is like
this is all the bands that they've listened to up until this point.
Left to Suffer were in the womb, and you know how like they're like, I'm gonna put these headphones up against your tummy and I'm gonna play some Beethoven, and that baby's gonna come out with the wrinkliest brain on planet Earth. That's what Left to Suffer is here. Like,
for me, they feel like a combination of like 3 stages of Warped Tour. You know what I mean? And it's like
you put it right up against that amplifier.
Yeah, precisely.
During Whitechapel, and this is what pops out.
I I like that this album just keeps swinging and it doesn't really ever like take the pace down. I think it helps the fact that this is 8 tracks and like 30 minutes. It makes it like go by in the blink of an eye. Like we never pause to breathe.
Yeah, pacing is phenomenal on here. And I think our features do a good job of keeping that energy going as well. We've got Kim Dracula on one of the singles, Artificial Anatomy. And I'm going to be honest with you, with full due respect to that band, that feature is so damn good that to me, it is a Kim Dracula verse featuring Left to Suffer, a Left to Suffer song on the other side of it.
I think that's a bit extreme. I think this is actually just a phenomenal decision of Left to Suffer to bring in an artist like Kim Dracula.
I think it can be both. Kim Dracula are so fucking sick.
Right, and that's what makes it such a good feature because it really pops in a way that like a lot of features don't.
It's one of my favorite features of the year.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I will say that
Primitive Urge we heard last year was, I guess, technically the lead single off this album.
Maybe unbeknownst to us.
Features Joe from Fit for an Autopsy, who's also sick. I don't know if that feature sticks out as much to me as the Kim Dracula one, but it definitely doesn't.
But it's specifically because Kim Dracula is such a bizarre anomaly currently within our scene. Like we don't have anybody else like doing like the Jonathan Davis type like scat delivery. Like it's just like not a thing. Right?
Talk about being a new metalcore band and going out and getting yourself some new metal to feature on this though.
I will say that why I think the tempo remains at an 11 for the majority of the record. I do think that the quality tapers off a little bit in the back half.
I disagree. I think it gets stronger in the back half.
That is fascinating because I thought Illusion of Sleep and Disappoint Me were a bit on the lower tier of the record overall.
I think in the middle we hit not a wall by any means, but it I don't know.
So there are different points of this record where you and I feel like it doesn't quite match the quality. It comes in so strong is part of its problem.
I think
it's like that first like 3-track run is like insane.
Yeah, like after Primitive Urge, we get like Break the Fever and Recluse, and it's like, yeah, these are good songs, definitely. Then we get Illusion of Sleep, and that's where I'm like, oh yeah, this is that risk taking I was talking about. I like this.
Interesting. For me, this is an instance of like you're reminding me of a slightly better song, and it's maybe biting you slightly.
We get Disappoint Me though after that, another single off of this, and I don't know, it's got like one of the bigger breakdowns on this album. It really stands out to me, and I think 8, Consistent Suffering, is, I don't know, it is another example of risk taking. It ends on such a fascinating note as far as like asking yourself what this band sounds like on their next project. Like it's just such a bizarre song for what maybe you know this band to currently be. It opens a lot of doors, right? As far as like sonic decisions we can make down the line.
This reminds me a lot of one of the tracks off of that last Brand of Sacrifice EP, where it's like, funny enough, the bands are like in their infancy, but you think you got them figured out. So then when they do something slightly different, it does really stick out in a way that's like, oh, all right, okay, maybe we got more like surprises in store.
Right, I didn't realize we had that up our sleeves.
Precisely. I mean, to put it bluntly, this is like pit starting metalcore, right? Like it exists entirely to like be the gasoline to the fire of every mosh.
This is crowd pleasers top to bottom pretty much. And you know, credit to this band. I think that's their catalog to date is a lot of crowd pleasers. We haven't had the pleasure of seeing them live yet, but I have a feeling if you just threw all of their songs in a hat and pulled out 6 of them, I'm walking away with a pretty great set regardless.
Yeah, it's a clean set list.
It doesn't matter what they're playing, but chances are I'm going to fucking have a great time during that set.
Above average release, a lot of promise moving forward, but maybe some dips in quality where I don't think every song is great. Puts me right at I'm going to push it towards an optimistic 3.5.
I'm at a 4.
Okay.
I'm really high on Left to Suffer. Like at this point, we've probably reviewed at least 3 of their projects, they keep getting better. I think that I've said it before. I think that they're not just one of the most exciting new deathcore bands. I think they're one of the most exciting deathcore bands, period. I think that we're looking at what is already a cornerstone of this genre continue to blossom. I'm really, really high on Left to Suffer. I'm really high on this album. The reason it's not a 5 is, like you said, there's still maybe a couple of dips in some of the quality here. I think that this band has all of their best material ahead of them, and I'm looking forward to hearing it.